Welcome to this Algebra 2 session on applications of linear systems. So we're going to be looking at writing and solving systems of linear equations to model and solve real-world problems. Your steps are going to be as follows. Read the problem and identify the two variables in the problem. You're going to have two variables in every problem that you do. Write the system of linear equations. Solve the system using substitution or the linear combination/elimination method. Interpret the solution and answer the question. So the admission fee at a small fair is $1.50 for children and $4 for adults. On a certain day, 2,200 people enter the fair and $5,050 is collected. How many children and how many adults attended? So what I did is I made X the number of children tickets and Y the number of adult tickets, because that's what we're asked to find. Now if you notice, and in all these problems that you're working on, they're going to compare the variables in two different ways. So in this problem, they're comparing the tickets by the admission fee and how much is collected, and then how many people enter the fair. So if we look at how many people enter the fair, there's 2,200. So the number of children tickets plus the number of adult tickets should equal 2,200 because you have a combination of those entering the fair, children and adults. So X plus Y equals 2,200. Now let's look at the comparison of price. We know that $1.50 times the number of children tickets plus $4 times the number of adult tickets is going to be $5,050. That's a type of problem we've worked on before. So 1.5x plus 4y equals 5,050. So if we use the linear combination or elimination method here, we want to eliminate the 4. So we can multiply the top equation by -4 to make that happen. So that'll give us -4x minus 4y equal to -8,800. Bottom equation remains the same at 1.5x plus 4y equal to 5,050. Then, adding here, -4 plus 1.5 gives us -2.5x. The y's cancel. -8,800 plus 5,050 gives us -3,750. Dividing both sides by -2.5 gives us x equal to 1,500. So the number of children tickets are 1,500. And then to get the number of adult tickets, all we do is substitute the 1,500 in either equation for y. So we have x, let's substitute it into the x plus y equal to 2,200 equation. X will be 1,500. Subtract 1,500 from both sides, and that gives us 700. Subtracting 1,500 from 2,200 is 700. So there are 700 adult tickets. And if you're wondering why I'm saying there's 1,500 children and 700 adult and not vice versa, once we solve for x here, if you couldn't remember what x represented, just go back up to where you defined your variables. X was the number of children tickets. So that's why there were 1,500 children tickets sold. All right, and that is our answer there. Let's move on to the next one. Pause if you need to in the lower left-hand corner. How many gallons of 20% alcohol solution and 50% alcohol solution must be mixed to get 9 gallons of 30% alcohol solution? So notice these are gallons of, it could be water mixed with alcohol, it could be anything mixed with alcohol, but what they're asking for is how many gallons of this solution and how many gallons of this mixture do we need to get 9 gallons of a 30% solution. So those are our variables. X, the number of gallons of 20% alcohol solution, and Y, the number of gallons of 30% alcohol solution. So again, we know that we need 9 gallons total for these two. So our first equation comes from, one second here. Our first equation comes from adding x and y. We know that we want that to be 9, when a total of 9 gallons. Now, the first few gallons, or however many we're going to use, the x variable, that has to be 20% alcohol solution. So we're going to take the number of x gallons, which would be x, and multiply it by 0.2 because we wanted to have a 20% alcohol solution. So our second equation comes from the comparison of the alcohol solutions. So 0.2x, because we need to change it to a decimal, plus 0.5y. We want the number of gallons of y gallons to be 50%. And you know what? I put 30 here before. Sorry about that. It should have been a 50. And then we know that that has to equal 9 gallons of 30% solution. So it's 9 times 0.3 because the 9 gallons, we want 30% of that to be alcohol. So what we do is first you can multiply 9 times 0.3. A couple different ways to do this one too. The decimals here, let me multiply this first. If you don't like working with the decimals, guys, you can always get rid of them by multiplying by a power of 10. So if I have one decimal place for all of my numbers, I can multiply the whole equation by 10 to get rid of all of those decimals. So let's do that. And if you want to work with the decimals, that's fine too. Multiplying this equation by 10 just to get rid of the decimal places will give me 2x plus 5y equal to 27. Now I'll work on eliminating a variable. So let's eliminate the x variable first. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by -2 because I have a +2 multiplying x in the second. So that gives me -2x minus 2y equal to -18. And the bottom one is 2x plus 5y equal to 27. Adding the equations together, the x's cancel. I get 3y equal to 9. Dividing both sides by 3 gives me y equal to 3. Now what does y represent? Y represents the number of gallons of 50% solution. So I have that there are 3 gallons of 50% solution. 3 gallons of 50% solution. And then to find the other one, I just simply substitute it into the x plus y equation. X plus y equal to 9. We know y is equal to 3. So substitute that in. X plus 3 equal to 9. And x is going to be 6. So there are 6 gallons of 30%, 20%, I don't know why I have 30 stuck in my head, 20% solution. And that's our answer. So one thing to take note of, guys, just like on the last problem, I really didn't touch on it, but these should add together to be 9, because that's what our equation said here, the first one, x plus y equal to 9, so the number of gallons added together should be 9. If it doesn't equal that, then you know you did something wrong somewhere and you should check your work. Alright, last but not least, you can pause if you need to. Mario invested $7,400 in 2 mutual fund accounts. One account pays 7.5% interest and the other pays 9% interest. He earned $636 in interest combined from the accounts. How much did Mario invest in each account? So x would be the amount invested with the 7.5% interest, and y would be the amount invested with the 9% interest. Now the first sentence actually gives us our first equation here. We know that it doesn't matter, whatever amounts he invested in each one, the two added together have to be 7,400. So we know that x plus y has to equal 7,400. 600. Now, the second equation comes from how much did he make in interest? Well, one account pays 7.5% interest. So the way that we represent that is 7.5% times x. Okay, 7.5% times x. Because you're taking 7.5% times the amount that he invested, and that will give you the interest that he made. So we need to change our percents to decimals, and I know there are decimals here, but they're decimal percents. And we need to change it to the number we're going to work with. So it becomes 0.075 in the equation. So it'll be 0.075x plus, the other one is 9%. It becomes 0.09 equal to $636 because that's how much interest he made from both accounts. Now here again we have a situation where we can get rid of the decimals if we choose to, and if we're going to get rid of them, if you notice we have 3 decimal places here, so we'd actually have to multiply by 1,000 to completely get rid of the decimal point. So it depends on if you want to work with large numbers. We'll do that here. Actually maybe we'll keep this one. We can keep this one as decimals, so you can see one where we work with decimals as well. I think we'll do it that way. Alright, so let's work on getting rid of the y. So to do that, we're going to multiply the y, the top equation, by negative 0.09, or 900. So multiplying there, I'm going to move down here, gives us negative 0.09x negative 0.09x minus 0.09y, and if you take 7,400 times negative 0.09, you're going to get negative 666. Bottom number is bottom equation is 0.075x plus 0.09y equal to 636. So add in 0.09x, negative 0.09x plus 0.075 is a negative 0.015x. This cancels, and that's going to be equal to negative 666 minus 636 gives you negative 30. Dividing both sides by negative 0.015 will give us x equal to $2,000. So that is the amount invested with 7.5% interest. So if we substitute that in, 7,400 minus 2,000, we're going to, oops, I'm sorry, I'm not writing that correctly. We know that x plus y is equal to 7,400, so substitute the x value in of 2,000. Subtracting the 2 gives you y equal to 5,400. So these are our two amounts. $2,000 invested at 7.5%, and 5,400 invested at 9%. And those are our two answers. So that ends the session. Put up my dollar signs there. Have a great day.